How's it going, everybody? This is Dave Meltzer. We're going to be here for the next 2 hours talking pro wrestling, and we're going to be talking a little bit about Pride, which is kind of pro wrestling and kind of not. I don't know what it exactly is. I know what it sort of is, but anyway. We got Brian Alvarez here. We're actually going to have Joe Silva up hopefully later in the show. I'm not exactly sure when in the show we're going to have him, but we'll be talking a little bit about the Pride show. Of course, we'll be talking about tonight's wrestling show. Got a little bit of a cold here, but anyway, but no problem too much. Brian, how was your weekend?
It's pretty good.
That's good. I think I finally hit the wall this weekend with staying up all night for the Pride show and just with all of this stuff with the WCW sale. The tonight, of course, will be the final episode of Nitro, at least in its current form, on TNT. A show which may be called Nitro and may be called something else will debut on TNN. The time slot is not 100%. It'll be the time slots we heard was most likely Saturday night from 11 p.m. to 1 a.m. A start date was not official as of yesterday. If they were trying to get the time slot official and the start date official so they could announce it at the end of the show tonight, which would be very beneficial to have that. And that's really where it stands. What's your thoughts as far as everything that's going on this weekend?
I guess we're going to start with the whole Nitro thing. I mean, I figure everyone's going to talk about, Saturday night at 11 o'clock, what a horrible time slot. But, we've said it before, if it's a show that people want to watch and it's a good show, then they're going to tune in to see it. And, I mean, we've seen Monday nights when Raw's been bumped to ungodly hours. It does a, respectable number. So I guess we'll see.
It has to be a great show, though, at that time slot.
Yeah.
I mean, a C show at that time slot's not going to do a big number.
Mm-hmm.
And, I mean, they've got to make sure that it's, equivalent to rebuild that company name, it's got to be close to equal to the WWF. There's just so many weird things.
I mean, one of the things we also noticed was, you remember every time that Vince Russo was going to do his big comeback, and he got the word out and everything like that, and the first show always got that ratings bump, but then it turned out to be the same old, and, everybody stopped watching after that. If they can get the word out, promote this thing like crazy, and really do something on the first show and on the first, several shows with new guys coming over there and everything like that. Yeah, it could do something.
If it's a great show, if it's a great new type of show, I mean, one advantage of that late night time slot is that you probably can get away with a lot more.
Yeah.
The disadvantage of that late night time slot is the newer, younger viewer that WCW was never getting is not going to watch at that hour because they're not going to be up from 11 to 1 on Saturday night. I mean, as far as the, 15 and under crowd that WCW was so weak with, and the crowd that WCW had maintained its strength with, which would be the 40 and over crowd, a lot of them aren't going to be moving to that show either, unless it has more WCW, what's the word I'm looking for? More WCW representatives of the glory days than this current roster has.
Mm-hmm.
Because they're not going to watch WCW to see Shannon Moore and to see people like that they are retaining, or even Booker T for that matter. They're going to have a lot of the old names, and I just don't know how many of those old names the WWF is going to want to sign.
Yeah. I think it'll be different enough that at least at the beginning it's going to do okay, and I guess it depends on, like you said earlier, if it's a C show, it will die, and if they really try and make it a big deal like an A show, and I guess Shane McMahon jumping over, it's a good start because, they're going to consider him like one of the top guys in the company. If he cares enough to jump over to WCW, I think a lot of it's going to depend on the promo he cuts tonight. And I guess...
I'm assuming the promo he cuts tonight is going to be strong. What's going to depend on
Well, I mean, what he's going to say, as far as...
How well they follow it up, afterwards and how much time they give it. And you got to remember also this... In acquiring this thing, it's added expense at a time when, I'm just from everything that I read today, I really don't believe the XFL is going to be around next season.
No.
And so that is a big expense that'll be off the books next year, that they're going to be off the books after April, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
So that's one thing. If they had both the WCW, startup costs and the XFL losses to deal with, that all of a sudden that big profit isn't so big anymore. I mean, just with the XFL, it isn't so big anymore. Dick Ebersol actually in the Washington Post today for the first time pretty much said that it's not going to be on NBC, barring a big turnaround during the playoffs. that NBC is committed to it, but they have to satisfy their advertisers too. And
what do they consider a big turnaround? A 1-9?
I think it's going to have to be a lot bigger than that. I think the playoffs are going to have to do at least in the 3s, which they won't do. There's no way.
No.
The show on Saturday night did a 2.0 on the overnights, which was exactly what the show the week before did, which ended up being the lowest rated show in the history of television and one of the big 4 networks in prime time. And this week will probably be along the same lines. Next week will probably be lower, going against the NCAA semifinals head-to-head for 3 hours. I'll tell you, the one thing that Saturday night did was whatever excuses were given for last week were out the window this week, and the numbers stayed almost the same. In fact, exactly the same on the overnights. Last week's big excuse was they went against basketball, and this week they did go against basketball for 1 hour, but then they had 2 hours where they didn't go against basketball, and the rating was barely better. So it wasn't basketball.
Don't forget St. Patrick's Day.
Come on, forget it. Don't even consider that one, okay? Let's see what else. WWF sold out the Garden. We're going to go to Joe Silva right now. Joe Silva was in Saitama, Japan on Sunday and was at the Pride Show. Joe, how you doing?
Hey, I'm doing really well.
Hey, how was the trip?
Oh, it was great. It's my first time in Japan. I had a lot of fun.
What was your thoughts as far as the show? I mean, the big thing on the show was the big upset night. And how do you think the new rules played a part in it, or did they at all? And what are your thoughts of the new rules for Pride as far as like the kneeing and the kicking on the ground?
Well, yeah, the kneeing on the ground changed everything. A lot of matches would have gone different without it. Every time you change the rules, you change the fight.
Yeah. You think it was too brutal?
The brutality thing is a hard thing. In our sport, we had very, very open rules at one time. And the fact of the matter was it still always proved to be safe. Mm-hmm. We've never really had anybody hurt from knees on the ground. But there's a lot of pressure for us from athletic commissions and things like that to, alter the rules till they believe it's safe. And that's the only way that we're going to get back on TV, so we've done that, but, it's the same thing that if they want heavier gloves or things like that. Sometimes there's things they ask for, and it's not necessarily that they're safer, but in their minds it is. So if it was too brutal, I don't know. But I will say this, a lot of fighters who I talked to after the show said that they don't like the knees on the ground. I was very surprised. Vitor Belfort was very vocal about it, Trey Telligman, some of the people. Their thoughts were that it takes less skill.
Yeah.
Trey said he was a big advocate of no rules at one time, but he's like, I don't know what I was thinking then. This is a sport, and we are athletes, and we need to present it as a sport. So it's actually surprised me. But I think under those rules, the wrestlers evolved in this show, and I think you're going to see as long as the knees on the ground are allowed, that's going to be the new technique, is simply the sprawl and brawl. If they got heavier hands and the guy is forced to shoot on them and they're not good at shooting, they're going to sprawl down, and when they flatten them out, they're going to knee them into oblivion.
I don't think it'd be such a big deal if, the guys were the same weight, but when it's like a situation where one guy is really big or a lot bigger than the other guy, it's like...
Well, that's what I like so much about, having the weight classes and all, is you take away those kind of things. There were some excellent matches. There were some matches, booking-wise, their philosophy is, certainly very different than ours. I don't like having guys of unequal weight, and with our show that doesn't happen, we're not supposed to happen, because of our weight classes. But yeah, I didn't think Alon Goes should have been in there with, Mark Coleman.
They actually didn't have that big of a weight differential, though, on the night of the fight.
The thing is, though, I could be a 200-pounder, and I'm like 5'4", but I shouldn't be.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's people, anybody can put on weight, but you go, is that really the natural weight that they should be at? Henzo should be a lightweight.
Oh, yeah.
But he had talked to me before this, no, I want to beat middleweights and I want to go up to heavyweight.
Well, that's stupid.
Some people, I told him, dude, we'll give you a shot in the UFC at lightweight, title, because he's an excellent fighter, but gone are the days where you can give up that kind of weight when you're taking on skilled fighters.
What do you think he was giving up with, because he could have been giving up 20 pounds to Dan Henderson.
Yeah, originally he told me that he was coming in at 190, but then I heard he just really started training like a madman and dropped a ton of weight. He did not look big at all. So, I mean, he could have been, 170.
Yeah.
Maybe smaller.
Did you have any thoughts on as far as what you thought the best fight of the show was?
I have a thought on what was the worst fight of the show.
Yasuda and Satake, right?
Yeah. That's
what everyone said.
That was pretty horrible. And that's to some people, to me, because everybody's looking, what's going to be the work in the show. I honestly don't believe that was the work. They just, there's no way they would have done it that way. It was so incredibly boring. It was just him pushing Satake into the corner. And that was it. Over and over again. The fans were booing it.
Plus, I don't think if someone was going to be sent in there to do work, they'd go the distance.
The thing is, the one piece of logic that some people were trying to say was, because of a lot of kind of mismatched matches early, the fights are going incredibly fast. So people are like, oh, they needed one to take up time because everything is going so quick. But I really don't think they would do it that way. And there was nothing that looked, there was no holes in it or anything. It was simply, a guy just bull rushing Satake. I would have to believe they'd give Satake more offense.
Well, the other thing also is, if you do a work, you're going to do back and forth.
Mm-hmm.
And the other aspect of it is that I've seen Satake in questionable fights before.
Right.
And they weren't that bad.
Oh, yeah.
And Yasuda's a pro wrestler, so even though he'd have to modify his style, a pro wrestler can do that work-shoot thing, rather than just stand in the corner and kind of smother him in the ropes where he can't do anything for 20 minutes.
Yeah, no, it was not, there was nothing. I think he got off maybe one kick, and that was it. He really did not get much good offense at all. I really don't believe it was. I believe everything in this show was on the level. And it's interesting, but the matchmaking is interesting. But one thing they have to be commended for too, if they're protecting people, which a lot of organizations will do, you'd like to nurture stars and have people do well. The Vanderlei Silva match really didn't seem to make much sense.
No, it's too big a risk for no reward.
Exactly, the payoff
too much
was not
downside,
big
no
enough.
upside, and then they ended up getting burned by it because, as a matter,
Well, it also looked like I don't know for sure, but they did a Hickson piece before that fight.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know if they thought they were going to get it and then he was going to beat Silva and have that match or what, but there was a Hickson video piece on the show. I have to say, live, the show looked spectacular.
Mm-hmm.
It's a beautiful arena. And
I heard that. Now, was the building totally sold out? Because I heard it was, and then I heard that then an announced crowd that it wasn't.
It wasn't. I mean, it was a big crowd, though. It wasn't sold out, but not by much. It was just the very top seats.
Okay.
So close to 27,000, or what did they announce, 20,008 or something?
They announced 20,006, and then I talked to some people that were there live who tried to tell me that it was actually 27,000.
Yeah, I mean, it was very close to capacity, but like I said, at the very top seats there was some empties, but, it was a very good crowd. So the entrances were very good. The Heath Herring one looked like something right out of pro wrestling.
Mm-hmm.
He's got, him and all his crew had on, big trench coats and cowboy hats and everything all in black. They look like the new Blackjacks or something.
What, if any, what do you think this means as far as to Sakuraba, as far as a draw? Because obviously he was the big draw on this show.
I think it's a very big rematch for them. He's been on such a streak, such a win, and he went down like a warrior. They did not stop that fight soon enough. It was ugly. I think that's what freaked some of the fighters out, is that he took punishment.
But the
worst thing that probably happened for him is he did what everybody does with Silva, is he actually dropped Silva at one point, and it probably, he wanted to take the fight down to the ground, but I think he was willing to trade more because he got him. Silva goes down almost every fight, but he's like Felix Trinidad. He always gets back up. and fights even harder. But on the ground, Sakuraba was very hurt. He was taking knees and kicks to the head, and I thought that went on a little long. The Coleman one definitely went on too long.
Mm-hmm.
Alain Goaz was out from maybe the first knee that he took, and he took at least 3 more. So yeah, he was out, but then he woke up and attacked Coleman sort of. It was reminiscent of Vitor Belfort against Scott Ferozzo. How it's like, okay, it's over, and you get up and you turn away, and all of a sudden you're being attacked again.
Or when, what was it, Oleg Toktarov and Renzo Gracie?
Right.
Where he...
Except that took him longer to get up.
Yeah, he didn't even know he was knocked out, and he got up and he thought the fight was still going on.
Yeah, that's what Alain did totally. He thought the fight was still continuing, but he was really knocked senseless. The Gracie, the Renzo and Henderson said it was interesting too. That was a pretty good stoppage. It's like he got sprawled on, and it was hard to tell, but it looked almost like when he got sprawled on top of it, his head might have hit his own knee. I mean, he really got crushed down, but then Henderson hit him with a shot afterwards, like right on top of the head, and then like a hook after it, and then he was out.
What did you think about the whole Inoki deal?
Oh my God, that was the thing that was really interesting to me. I know this is my first time in Japan and all, and I know Inoki's reputation and all, but if you're not there live to experience, you just cannot believe how over that man is.
Yeah, I mean, people think about The Rock, and it's like it's not the same thing. It's just
this guy, they worship this guy.
Yeah.
They are hanging on his every word, screaming and yelling and chanting, and it was amazing. Nobody got close to the pop that he did.
Well, the thing when Inoki comes out is like, especially because they do this usually, like right at the intermission, and you just see people sprinting back into the arena when they understand that Inoki's about to come out.
Yep. No, it was huge. They reacted to him so much. I wish I could understand everything that he was saying, because everything he said, the crowd was laughing and reacting well to it. And
I think people that speak Japanese didn't understand everything he was saying.
I don't understand it, and I'm a wrestling fan. I don't understand what he was doing. I mean, he brought out 2 pro wrestling belts, and he gave one to Fujita and gave one to Mark Coleman.
That was very strange. Yeah, there was a lot of pro wrestling style angles.
Yeah, like but no, I heard they set up Kendo Kashin and Hein Gracie again, and it's like, didn't they learn from the first one?
Yep. Well, I guess they figure it can't get any worse.
Yeah, but they killed the kid's career the first time. I mean, it's not going to, unless he wins, it's not going to help him any.
Plus, the thing is, he probably in his mind thinks, I got caught. It was a fluke. I was not prepared, and I'll do better this time, because he couldn't do worse this time.
Well, he may do better, but I don't know. Well,
I don't know what good that's going to do.
Oh, it's the thing. Look at Takada. He got smoked by Hickson the first time. He still took him on the second time.
Yeah, that was different. That was like huge money. And, Takada, was all about money. You know what I mean? That was a big money draw fight. This is just something where, I don't know. Just this.
Plus, you had a guy kind of on a tail end of his career. It's not like.
Yeah, like a 30-year-old guy. Yeah.
Now, the thing, he probably, it's probably an ego thing. He feels like, what, I could make a better showing. I want to make a better showing. I got embarrassed. I want to atone for it.
Yeah.
But
any other thoughts as far as the show went? Any things you felt like you learned from watching the show? As far as like ideas and stuff like that.
I said I liked a lot of the production, but a lot of it also I think works better for Japan. I mean, I like Japanese stuff, so it appeals to me, but as far as the American public, I don't know. And a lot of it's time stuff, a lot of like where they had all the fighters come out at the beginning, and they introduce everybody. It's very cool to see it, but it's like in our show, it's like, wow, that would be a big thing to take up time that would stop you from having more fights.
No, that wouldn't work in the United States. That's total Japanese ceremony.
Exactly. It's cool to watch for Japan, but I don't think it would apply to America. But no, I mean, they were great, and it was a fun show, but, like I said, some of the matches, and it's not even a critical thing, it's a different kind of thing, but our approach is so different, and that we have champions, we have weight classes, we try to have some sort of logical build, where right now Pride just puts on a lot of fights that are interesting. The one thing I would say, too, probably the best fight in a lot of ways would be Igor Vovchanchin and Trey Helligman.
What was your thoughts on that? Because that was big. That was a huge upset.
Yeah, it was surprising, especially because a lot of people get hit by Igor and go down, and he rocked Trey, but Trey dealt with it and then just came back.
Did Silva just get tired, or Volchanski just get tired?
Well, even early on, he wasn't having a lot of success. It wasn't like he was doing great and then he got tired and then started losing. He was not really doing great right off the bat because he had a guy who had somewhat of a chin and could take his punch, and he is really very short to fight in the heavyweight division.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he gives up a lot of reach. You could tell he hits very hard, but he's given up a lot of reach, and if you have somebody who can take the punch, it's difficult. And like he ended up, Trey took him down nicely, and then Trey's working his guard a lot, and just he has nothing from the guard. Trey didn't have to worry about submissions at all.
I also want to make mention real quick that we had a, this is not confirmed, but right before we went on the air, we did hear that Scott Steiner was in Panama City because he arrived late, and there was definitely concern about that. Joe, I want to ask you, having to do with pro wrestling, the biggest, obviously about, because we've already talked about it, WCW being bought by the WWF, but to me the biggest story in a roundabout way, having to do with the future of pro wrestling from all this, not just that one guy is going to own the whole thing, but the lack of interest in the major cable networks in pro wrestling at this time, which is basically why one person's got it, because nobody else wanted it, or else the deal would have gone elsewhere. As far as your thing goes, there's a lot of people, everyone in the world's going like, well, who's going to be number two? Because there is no number two right now.
Mm-hmm.
And really number two is the first guy who gets strong national television. And you guys, the one thing that you guys have is a totally different product. What's your thoughts as far as, plans and things like that, and how this affects, I don't know if this directly affects you, but indirectly I think it does.
Oh, I think it does. And the thing is that the big part is getting back on cable, and we're working on that. And there's a lot of positive-looking things in that direction. And the fact of the matter is, when we were on cable at our height, we were huge, and the people who were running it had no clue what they were doing. They just kind of lucked into it.
They lucked into a good product, yeah.
Yeah, no, I think the people, Zuffa knows far more about how to, I think, on our last show, we did that basically on 3 weeks' notice. We made the changes, and people were saying, it's the best show in years. And we had very little time to do that. They understand a lot of concepts that the old group didn't, mainly being that you need to create stars, you need to push personalities, you need to get across storylines, and you need to put on the best, most competitive fights. That's the biggest difference you're going to see in UFC now, is it's not going to be name guy versus tomato can guy. It's all going to be, guys who deserve to be in the big show, all, proven commodities, not just people walking off the street into the main draw anymore.
Now, what, as far as your relationship with Pride, would there be a chance that, say, a Sakuraba or somebody that's on a Pride show, Mark Coleman, could fight for you guys, or is it just one of those things where politically that's not going to happen?
Well, that's one of the things that I love about working with these guys. One much better one is they don't take an adversarial slant to it. We went to Pride, and they enjoyed Pride. They're fans of the sport as a whole. And as you saw on our last show, we were not afraid to say, when we talk about who the best fighters in the world are in a weight division, we listed people who weren't even in our show, and maybe never will be. But they're all about legitimacy. They're all about, this sport as a whole. Before, the UFC would act like no other organizations existed. Sometimes we would have somebody come into our show who had great accolades from another show, and they wouldn't even bring it up.
Well, like Dan Severn holding that belt that he held when he fought Pedro Hizzo?
Right. Of course, they were willing to let him be the NWA champion, but...
Well, that's a different thing.
But yeah, that's completely in the past. So as far as what will happen for sure in the future, I don't know, but I do know that these guys are willing to listen and work with anybody and work to help the sport as a whole. They feel competition is a good thing and a healthy thing, and they don't look at it so much as it's us versus them and get them at any cost. We feel confident in our product, and if we put out the best product we can, that we can stand with anybody. Now,
what right now on May the 4th in Atlantic City, what do you have confirmed so far?
It's still, there's some difficulties are simply in that the last show was so good that people, are thinking that, they made $1 million in the last show because it looked so good, and they don't realize, no, we're still not back on cable, and we pumped a lot more money into it without bringing more money in. So a lot of demands have gotten higher, a lot more stuff needs to be worked out. Plus, we're dealing with the way that business used to be done, where fighters are used to, we don't have to sign a contract till a week before the show. And we are looking to change that, but it's an education process. Plus, we're overcoming, that sometimes fighters and managers dealt with companies and they didn't treat them right or whatever, so there's a big suspicion. Everybody's like, you're trying to lock me up into this or that. So it's just a process. But I think we're going to earn everybody's trust. I think nobody's going to treat the fighters better than Zuffa does. And I think once we get over this first show where we're 100% in control of it, that it will get easier from here on out. But at the moment, we're still waiting on contracts to come by. We're trying to get those taken care of, hopefully by the end of this week.
So is there any relationship between UFC and UFC Japan, or is that pretty much dead?
That's dead.
Okay.
There's no relationship.
Now, are you looking at doing something in Japan, though?
I mean, yeah, it's a great market. As to exactly what it will be or when that time frame will happen, I can't say. But a lot of different ideas are being looked at. But so we love Japan, and the Japanese have a great appreciation for this sport. And, I think it just makes sense that sooner or later we're going to do something in Japan.
Okay, Joe, I want to thank you very much for doing the show today.
Yep.
And,
take it easy, guys.
We'll be talking to you soon, and good luck with the UFC.
Later.
Okay, that was Joe Silva with the UFC, who was talking about the Pride Show, which took place on Sunday in Saitama, Japan, and it was the night of upsets with Vanderlei Silva beating Kazushi Sakuraba in 1:38, and Trey Teligman upsetting Igor Vovchanchin. That was one of the bigger upsets in the history of mixed martial arts, the number 2 heavyweight in the world losing. Although the way they matched up, it's still a big upset. Dan Henderson knocking out Renzo Gracie, the first time Renzo Gracie's ever been knocked out in competition, and that was very quick, like 1:40. And Tadao Yasuda of New Japan beating Masaki Satake, which was probably the single most boring match, but also probably the biggest upset in the history of mixed martial arts, because you had a guy who's a veteran of this sport, an accomplished kickboxer, going against a guy who has been a pro wrestler, who's well over 300 pounds, 37 years old, never having done this. And even though the fight was horrible, he actually got a split decision out of the fight. So anyway, that was the main stuff there. We're going to talk more about WCW. Brian, anything else you want to talk about regarding tonight's television or anything?
Tonight's television as far as Raw Nitro?
Yeah.
I just want to, I think it's going to be interesting to see what Shane McMahon says, because it's like they have this situation where they own both companies, and they're going to want to start a war of some sort. And it kind of means you sort of have to bury the competition in what you say, but that's really not what you want to do as far as keeping another. I mean, if Shane goes out there and goes, Dad,
I bought this horrible, terrible company, but I'm going to bring it back.
This thing was dying, and I want to recreate it or whatever. Or is he going to come out there and say, look, Dad, look at what you're doing to your company. You're out there on national TV with this girl, telling her to bark like a dog. It's just horrible, and I'm going to take this company here, and we're going to crush you. What's he going to say? What's he going to say that's not going to bury one or the other?
Well, we'll find out. That's going to be the most interesting thing about the TV tonight, I think. Now that it's been several days and a lot of the talent stuff is starting to shake out as far as who they're going to keep, what the details are and everything, what's your thoughts as far as – because, I mean, the one thing when I look at that list of guys that they're keeping and the guys that they want, when I look at that list by itself, it's like, there's a lot of good wrestlers there, but there is no main events there.
Yeah. I think they're just going to do the if they want to make WCW right off the bat look strong, they need to get some of their top guys going over there. And probably one of the, they'll get Shane McMahon over there, obviously. I think a good guy maybe would be Kurt Angle because, he's a guy that could be a main eventer, but the position he's in now in the WWF, they don't really consider him a main eventer. And maybe someone like Benoit, just guys like that going over there to They need a top guy so that fans think, if this guy who is at the top of the WWF is willing to come over here, this must be something big. If they have a bunch of guys like Test going over there, it'll be B show right off the bat.
Okay, now here's the thing when we're talking about that, though. Number one, the guys who go over there are not going to be wrestling on the road, which means that you really don't want young guys that need ring time out there, which is funny because that's all the guys the WCW has. And the other thing is that I think that it should be maybe Helmsley and Undertaker over there. Although
Undertaker for sure, because he doesn't need to.
And the reason I say that is because I think that if Benoit and Angle are to go over there and they'll immediately become the top two guys in that company, it's kind of like, well, those guys were almost good enough to be on top in the WWF, and now when they go to WCW, they're by far the two top guys. I think it'd be better if it's a guy who already is a top guy. That way, Benoit and Angle become top guys because of the omission of two top guys, so they're forced in the main events in one company. Whereas Hunter, Hunter's already established as a top guy, and if he goes over there, him being a top guy doesn't make everybody else look Bush League and make the company look weak. Whereas, say, Benoit going over there and being the number one guy in the company, they're going like, well, golly, he was number 6 in WWF. He goes over there and he's number 1. What does that say about them?
Yeah. You know what I would say in the short term, but, it probably wouldn't work out any longer than that, is if they sent Rock over there. I mean, he's doing the movie. He probably will only be able to do TV tapings.
You know what?
He can't go on the road.
Yeah, you know what?
But then what happens when the movie's done filming?
Well, there's always ways to shoot around that. You know what? That's probably the best idea of all. Because you're right, he can't go on the road, so it's not like they're losing someone who can go on the road. And there's no question that he's a top guy, and no matter where he goes, he's going to be number 1. I like that. Not that it's going to happen, because it's not. And it's probably better than what's going to. But anyway, we'll start seeing the stuff tonight, and hopefully we'll know when the TV is, and we'll have a lot more answers over the next couple of days. We'll start hitting some emails before we start getting to the phone calls. It's from Eric, who goes with all the names, WCW names being mentioned this week. There's one I haven't heard, Chris Kanyon. I would suspect that the deal with Chris Kanyon is his contract was very high with WCW, and they didn't want to buy a contract at a high rate, but I think that Chris Kanyon will, I have little doubt Chris Kanyon will get the opportunity to work for WWF at the price they dictate, which is a very key point.
Same with all those guys.
Guys, I have Alex Morvez on the line. He's got a little bit of breaking news, okay?
Okay. Alex, what's going on?
Dave, how are you?
I'm doing good.
Brian.
Great.
Hey, good. Hey, it looks like Saturday night is going to be the night for WWF on TNN.
11 to 1?
11 to 1. I'm not sure if they're going to announce it tonight, but that is pretty much the deal that has been struck.
Okay.
If it's confirmed, I think they'll probably announce it.
If they can get everything, I's crossed, T's dotted, whatever.
Did they announce like a start date?
No start date yet that I know of, but they may have one. I still think they're trying to finalize all the details, but it is pretty much a go that it will be Saturday night. And do not be surprised that they go heavily after the Saturday Night Live demographic, maybe even resorting to the point of saying that Lorne Michaels was the guy who took away your XFL football or whatever.
Oh, well, that's good for 10 people.
Well, they've got to blame somebody.
I wouldn't even want to bring any of that up.
Well, I wouldn't either, but again, they got to blame somebody, and right now the guy, they're looking for some scapegoats. You may as well blame Lorne Michaels, right?
Well, he did cut like 47 seconds off of that game the other night.
Yeah, I heard about that.
They were so spooked they wouldn't show the finish of the game Saturday night.
Yeah, that they cut off the finish of the game. Interestingly, and this is on a separate note, I'm out here at the NFL owners meetings. The NFL next year, for their late season Saturday games and their playoff games, are going to move the start time so that the games end up in prime time. I don't know if that has anything to do with the XFL or not, but
maybe a final slap in the face.
Yeah, the ultimate coup de grace, right? So that's what I'm hearing, guys. I just want to let you know it's up on the website, so I got to get back to work on my other day job.
Okay, thanks very much, Alex.
Thanks, guys. Bye-bye.
Okay, we'll go for another minute here, and then we'll go to another break. See what's the future of WCW pay-per-views, or they have some sort of a contract with the pay-per-view companies. They did. That contract has not been picked up by the WWF. So right now, there are no pay-per-views on the schedule. There will be pay-per-views when the WWF deems that they can do pay-per-views. And there's no... When it comes to any of this stuff like house shows, pay-per-views, there is nothing close to a plan. They're going to roll out that TV, and when they feel it's hot and feel they can do it, then they'll make a try. But it's not like 6 months, a year. It may never happen. It may happen in 3 months. So that's the deal there. This says, I can't believe the overwhelming response of fools who are voting that the WWF purchase is good for wrestling. Oh, it's not good for wrestling. I don't want to say fools, but it's not good for wrestling. There's no way. It's something on the WCW website. What do you expect? What do you expect? I mean, that's an unsophisticated group of fans. No, it is. Hey, it is. Hey, God, that's the reality of it. I mean, they don't, people don't realize that wrestlers are going to be pushed around. It's not right, especially for people like me looking to get into the business. There's basically a no-way stance right now, if you know what I mean. Hello. And I see who that person is who does not want his name recognized, but he is a relatively known wrestler who is probably out of work. I shouldn't laugh about that because that's really sad. Will Eric Bischoff still be at the Nitro finale? I'm almost sure he will not be there tonight.
No.
Let's see. What is this? Gimmick Battle Royal. I don't want to think about the Gimmick Battle Royal right at this minute.
I am appalled at the amount of feedback we got about that thing, by the way.
Why? It's going to be 7 minutes of comedy. I don't mind seeing Michael Hayes. The thing is that to a very vocal segment of the audience, because clearly in the building it wasn't that big of a deal, but to a vocal segment of the audience, the Honky Tonk Man cameo at the Royal Rumble was really fun, and I put myself in that category. I thought it was really fun.
Mm-hmm.
So now they're going to give us 17 of them, and you know what? It's like it won't be that much fun.
Why isn't Honky on that list, by the way? Did he burn his bridges last time?
Yeah, I don't know. This is from someone who goes, I'm emailing you from Australia telling you that I listen to the show every day, love every minute for it. Love every minute of it. For what it's worth, here are my top 10 interviews. Number 1, Tom Zink. Number 2. I think if we did a balloting, that would be the number 1. Number 2 is Tom Zink. Number 3, Honky Tonk Man. I'm very surprised that's that high. Not that he was very good, though, but that surprised me. Number 4, Bobby Heenan. Bobby Heenan was very good that one time we had him on. Number 5, Tom Zink. Number 1, Tom Zink fan. Although, I know Tom Zink's very good on this show. 6, Lance Russell. Yeah, Lance Russell's great on this show. 7, Steve Kern. Yeah, I loved the Steve Kern interview. 8, Jim Cornette, the most recent one. All the Cornette ones are good. 9, Rico Constantino, which is a surprise because we just had him on the other day, and I thought he did very well, but I mean, it was like this day where there was so much news that we didn't really get to talk to him as much as we normally do to a guest. But he was good. Number 10, Missy Hyatt. I'm going to quickly go through our weekend poll, which was, how would you react to the news that WWF has purchased WCW? It's good news for fans and wrestlers, 16%. Good news for fans, bad for wrestlers, 35%. Now, I'll tell you what. Now, the good news for wrestlers, there's no way. You can make an argument it's good news for fans. There's no way this is good news for wrestlers, okay? Bad news for fans and wrestlers, 12%. Some short-term good but bad long-term for everyone, 36%. Bad short-term but good long-term, 1%. Today's question, which is a similar topic, how long do you think WCW would be kept as a separate entity before being absorbed into the WWF? A, less than 3 months. B, 3 to 6 months. C, 6 months to a year. D, 1 to 2 years. And E, more than 2 years.
As far as bad news for the wrestlers, I mean, financially, obviously it is, but I think there's some guys that are going to be happy that at least now they're going to get a chance in a company that has a clue.
Yeah, but there's not going to be there's going to be a lot of guys that are out of work.
Yeah.
And it's going to be bad financially. You're right though. There are guys where
in general it's bad, but for some guys I'm sure that this is the happiest day of their lives.
Yeah, there'll be some guys who benefit from this. You're right. Hopefully. Unless it's just gutted. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like in a year.
Mm-hmm.
In which case, maybe like they'll keep 5 to 8 guys. I don't know, I'm so negative about this because I've seen this in not just wrestling, but in other forms of sports entertainment when something like this has happened, and it's happened many, many times. In the long run, it's never been good. Whether it was what happened when Roller Derby folded in Roller Games, which was a total disaster and killed everything within about a year after it happened, or with just his most recent pro wrestling thing with the Mid-South, when Jim Crockett took over Florida, he took over Central States, he took over Mid-South, and in every case, they never did anything promotional, and they ended up not using allowing any of the outside talent to get over because it would threaten the guys, or they were still fighting a fight that they'd already won. Like there was always that rivalry of which group, with Jim Crockett and Bill Watts when they were running at the same time, which group was really the good wrestling group, because WWF was obviously the entertainment-oriented group. And there's a lot of things. So when Bill Watts sold to Jim Crockett, it was all those guys that were fighting, and the first thing that they did on mixed shows was put all the UWF guys in the middle and low part of the card, and all the NWA guys in the top of the card, and they put Jim Crockett guys ended up winning all the UWF titles right away, which basically killed those titles as being competitive titles. I mean, they had Big Bubba Rogers, who was a mid-card mid-card gimmick guy for Jim Crockett go over and win the UWF World title right away. I mean, that was totally done wrong. When they finally did, they were going to do the beginning of unification matches. The first one was Nikita Koloff and Terry Taylor for, I think they unified the 2 TV titles, as I recall. Or there were two, I think that's what it was, actually, at a Starrcade. And it was like this squash match, where Terry Taylor got no offense, and Nikita just killed him. And it was like, well, that's just a great way to start a promotion feud. And then they never even bothered with the other belts. And as I recall, Steve Williams ended up selling that UWF belt so he could get, like 50-yard line tickets to a football game or something. That's how much it meant to him by the time it was all over. So anyway, I wonder who's got that belt now. This is a question. What was the biggest wrestling news story of the last 25 years? This is 15 different ones. Number 1, WWF buys WCW, which is certainly one of them. WCW starts Nitro was a big one. Vince screws Bret Hart. That'd be in the 15. Vince declares war on the territories. That may be number 1 or 2. I think this one and that one are probably the 2 biggest. Vince McMahon steroid trial, very high. All Japan split, very high. NWO, WCW feud. Not as high as the other ones we mentioned. Kira Maeda starts UWF. I think long-term that one's pretty damn high, just because of how much it changed the entire industry. 9, Rise of AAA, which would be probably the biggest one in Mexico, because it changed Mexico huge. Number 10, Riki Choshu attacks Inoki. That was 1982. Well, yeah, because it did change the structure of the main events in Japan from Americans versus Japanese to Japanese versus Japanese at the big box office. And it really did it was the beginning of the idea when Americans became far less important to the Japanese wrestling. That's a big one. 11, Hogan jumps to WCW. I think Hogan jumping to WWF was bigger than Hogan jumping to WCW, actually. But they were both big. Number 12, Ted Turner buys NWA, or Jim Crockett Promotions, and that was huge. 13, Jim Crockett buys UWF. As we just talked about, that could have been huge, but I don't think it really was. 14, death of Owen Hart. 15, death of Bruiser Brody. So those are some of them right there. It's from Chris Russell, who goes, I'm from Coleman, Alabama. I was listening to a Christian radio station this morning in Birmingham. They said they were going to have Tim Berryman, the Birmingham Thunderbolts general manager, on. He was trying to target the Christian community to raise the ratings and get families to come out to XFL games, and said they were going to change their product to a family-friendly product instead of the adult-style product they have now. Boy, they're desperate, huh?
Look at all these changes, like in the first season. That's what's so funny.
Yeah.
It's like every week. Well, this week let's try family entertainment. Next week we'll try camera in the locker room. Of course,
Derek Sands. This is going to... this is from Derek Sands, who goes, I have a couple questions. Does Antonio Inoki own Pride? He does not own Pride, but he's the, I guess he would be like the booker or one of the main bookers. Probably the main booker. Why do you consider Pride Pro Wrestling? Because Antonio Inoki's the booker, and because its audience is entirely pro wrestling fans, and because it's the number 1 pro wrestling promotion right now in Japan. Finally, to give the WCW World title credibility, they should send a former WWF champion that's never competed in WCW like Kurt Angle, win the belt, lose to Goldberg. I don't think Bill Goldberg is going to be part of this, although it's possible that he will be. I don't think he will be. I've noticed a lot of the sheets on the net have been saying TNN's given WWF a time slot 8 to 10 on Friday. Well, we already know the story on that. That's not true. With the sale of WCW to WWF, the question that really is on everyone's mind is, whatever happened? What will happen to Bob Ryder? I have no idea. No idea. What's the story with Shane Douglas? Do you leave WWF on good terms and will he be one of the guys who will have their contracts restructured? I think Shane Douglas is in a lot of trouble. I think he's in a lot of trouble. Let's see. This is from Hector Velez, who goes, I checked out the Matt Rats video on their site. I really like the match highlights. Totally hated the teeny bopper crap, but I'm really interested. Give me more information on Matt Rats, who formed it, and when they're going to have a TV deal. I don't know when they're going to have a TV deal. The moves in the matches are phenomenal. They really caught my interest. It's, as I said when we were talking about this the other day, it's not something that's going to appeal to a lot of wrestling fans because it's totally aimed at teenage girls. So that's going to hurt a lot as far as like to mainstream pro wrestling fans. As far as TV, do you know who formed it in the TV deal or anything? Because I know you know some people in it.
No, I don't know who. I know Teddy Hart's involved, and I actually don't even know the name of the other guy, but they're pretty much the main guys. If I can find that letter, I'll let you know the guy's name.
Do you think WWF will book some of their top stars to wrestle dark matches at WCW tapings that may draw more fans? They won't have to tape TV in empty arenas. Interesting. You know, the idea that they send like Steve Austin or somebody like that or Kurt Angle to work the main events when they finally do tapings. It's not a bad idea. Not a bad idea. I don't know. I don't think they're going to do it though, but they may. I was wondering where I could get a copy of the Heroes of Wrestling pay-per-view.
I'm sure those are all over.
Yeah, I think you could probably get it pretty easily. Yeah, I need to see Jake the Snake. Okay.
Dude, that's far from the only thing you need to see on that show. You need to watch the whole show.
This goes from Sean. Goes, I will lose all respect for Scott Steiner if he doesn't do what's right for the business tonight. I think he will, because he has to, or else he will never be working in the main events in a mainstream promotion for a long, long time. The first day of trading after they announced they bought WCW, WF stock rose $1.50. I heard
Wow.
that. Yeah. In Winnipeg, Cyrus hosts a weekly radio show. Yesterday he revealed he had a deal with an announcer in the Fusion-run WCW. That's nice to reveal it. He said he no longer had the deal. I guess Bischoff was going to make a good decision and hire Cyrus. You know what? I can tell you something. Bischoff was going to make a lot of good decisions. I don't know that overall he would turn it around or anything, but he had a lot of good decisions that he was hiding. Let's see, from Todd Ferretti, as far as equipment purchased in the WCW sale, what did the WWF buy? That's a good question. I don't know. Are they going to use WF rings or WCW rings or WF ones? Did WWF keep any of its referees, or will Earl Hebner? I think they'll probably keep the refs. Do not know. Let's see. This from Jeremy goes, for the first time in a long time, I'm actually very excited about the two shows tonight. I just hope it does not get added to the list of letdowns we've grown accustomed to. Hey, it may be great tonight, but it's over tonight too.
Yeah.
It
was over last Monday, actually.
Well, it was over when the
the transition's already gone through.
Yeah. Do you think the rumors of Jerry Jarrett and Burt Prentice starting a new national promotion are true? Well, they're true as far as they're talking about it. Personally, I think it would be the greatest thing for the wrestling business because these are two of the greatest minds that ever came along.
Yeah, but where are they going to put their show? How are they going to do national promotion without a show? I mean, there's just, there's so many factors we talk about it a million times. Great, they can talk and say, we're going to put this promotion together, they can come up with some money and get some guys, but then what?
Yeah, no, hey, there's plenty of big-name guys that are going to be available. More than have been available on the independent scene or by a third promotion, or by a new promotion, I should say, to start out within a long, long time. But it's like, where's going to be the exposure? And also, the other thing is even if you can get the exposure, the amount of money it costs now for production, because if you don't have good production, you can't compete. And that's where WCW lost all that money, was trying to, do the promotion, do like major league production while not having major league revenue coming in.
Mm-hmm.
And again, and if somebody else, whether it's Jerry Jarrett or anyone, if they don't want to do major league production, they're not going to get anywhere. And if they do, they better have major league revenue coming in, and that ain't going to happen right away. Let's see. I think the WWF and WCW could do a World Cup of Wrestling like New Japan and WCW did at Starrcade when they merged the two together. Maybe a big show like a WrestleMania or SummerSlam. WWF has no interest in anything with Japan right now. What's the status of Super Crazy? It's up in the air. I don't know. Do you know if Jason Jett and Kid Romeo earned a spot in WCW? I am relatively sure that both guys will be offered a low contract. Let's see. Let's see. How much stroke does Paul Heyman have in the WF storylines? Decent
input.
amount. Yeah, he's got decent input. Yeah. WWF needs to put Rob Van Dam on WCW TV. Well, wouldn't hurt. But there's the same reasons why they didn't hire him before, or the same reasons. There's nothing's changed.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. Putting aside all the cross-promotion ideas for a minute, I'd like your opinion on tonight's scheduled main event for Raw. Putting Rock and Austin together as a team in order to have something to happen to create more tension between them is a no-brainer, but why are they booking them against another face team? I didn't even know
What is the main event?
I don't know. I was wondering if the bookers wanted to put them against Angle and Benoit and then realize they can't let them beat Rock 2-on-1. If they can't beat Rock 2-on-1, what chance do they have against both of them as a team, even if one leaves the other hanging? I don't see this event generating that much crowd response, and without Benoit or Angle to carry the match, who would want it? Furthermore, it doesn't seem to do anything to help Helmsley and Undertaker build up. Maybe it's all a swerve and we'll be getting something different. I don't even know what the card is. Let's see. When can I get Bischoff on the show? We'll ask. I don't know. Is there any chance we'll be stuck hearing Tony Schiavone? Losing him is the best thing about the collapse of WCW. I think there's a good chance he will not be there.
One thing I was thinking about today, though, is I think that at the very least he should be given a chance. I mean, part of me thinks he shouldn't because he's the face of the old WCW that everybody hated. But, I mean, we were talking about it before, like back during the hot period, he wasn't an embarrassment.
Oh,
he had
he's
something
very
to
good.
call that was entertaining for him, and he did, a decent job.
Let's see. What's up with the WCW production crew? They can't keep any of these unprofessional people. Why do I have to contact who do I have to contact for a new production job? WWF. Let's see. I've heard that Sting is on the list of people the WWF does not want. Sting being a problem is news to me. Can you expand on this a little more? It's not necessarily, it is a problem, but it's just a financial thing. There are certain guys, Kevin Nash, Sting, Goldberg, that it's just not going to happen unless I'd be very, very surprised. Financially, the way everything would have to work out, they would cost themselves huge amounts of money to work. So, and rather than sit at home and not work and make tons more. And I'm sorry, but I don't care what age you are. And Sting's 42, Nash is 42. Goldberg's a little bit younger than them. But at that age, if you got, like in the case of Nash is at $1.6 million a year to sit at home and do nothing, or he can get a small settlement and take a giant pay cut and then work, and then work for WWF if they would take him, which they probably won't anyway. And in the case of Sting, it's the same thing. It's like, like Sting's contract, I think it's somewhere between 1.6 and 2 million a year. WWF's not going to offer him more than probably $400,000. He could, why go?
You really got to look at it from Sting's standpoint too. There was that year where he worked one match,
Yeah.
One match, and now
he got lazy.
What's he been doing
He's never
this
been good
past
since
year?
then.
Nothing.
He's never been. Yeah. Let's see. You said the new time slot for WCW is Saturdays 11 p.m. When will this move take place? This Saturday after that, a month from now? Nobody knows. If they don't announce anything tonight, that means that there's no final decision made. It'll be as soon as they can get up there. They want it up quick, though. Mike in Minnesota, you're first up.
Hey, how you guys doing?
Doing really good.
I was just wondering about Lance Storm. You think he'll benefit from this?
He was on the list.
Benefits. If the show is a success, he'll benefit. If the show is not a success, the jury's out. So
Any
it's,
chance of Jericho joining Team Canada?
Chris Jericho joining Team Canada. I give there's a chance. I don't expect it. Benoit would. Again, there's a chance. I wouldn't expect it because to go over there, that would mean that they would no longer be doing house shows, and I just don't see the WWF taking Benoit and Jericho off house shows right now.
What about Storm going over there?
I think if the thing gets gutted, he will end up there. Until then, probably not right away.
And do you think some of the WCW guys will be asked to change their finishers, like Booker T and Kidman?
Yes, probably. Almost for sure.
Kidman?
Yeah, the same as Christian.
Yep,
Oh, that's right, yeah.
Yeah.
And tonight's main event for Raw is it's against Undertaker and Kane.
Oh, Undertaker and Kane against Rock and Austin?
Yep.
Oh, okay.
There goes that string of good main events we were talking about.
And
they'll shoot. Obviously, they got to shoot a huge angle.
Yeah.
So it makes sense. In that sense. But yeah, you're right. It may not be at the level of all the main events we've been seeing of late.
Yeah, it should still be good though.
Well, the angle will be good. I don't know, but
if they do the new WCW show and it gets hot, they could tour.
Yeah, of course. But until then.
Yeah.
That's and they will tour if it gets hot.
Do you think any of the younger guys in WCW do house shows for WWF just to get some ring time, or?
Not at the beginning, no. At some point, it's a possibility. What I would do is I would send those guys to Memphis and just have them do the TV, do the TV tapings every week, and send them to Memphis or Ohio Valley, maybe even more likely Ohio Valley, so they get like 4 nights a week of wrestling, which they need. And actually, as far as that idea has been discussed. I know that, so it's a possibility.
And are the rumors about the Hardy Boys and Edge and Christian being there tonight, is that true or what?
No, they were down there. I can't say for sure because I don't know exactly who's going to be there and who's not. But those guys were down there for public appearances that had nothing to do with Nitro. They were all down there. But I'm of the impression they're going to be in Cleveland tonight. Again, I don't know that for sure though.
One final question.
Another idea is to take some of the guys that are really banged up, send them to WCW, let them have the couple months off or whatever until they start touring, and just do the TV.
That's not a bad idea.
Jeff Hardy's got to need a break.
That's a good idea. That's a real good idea to send the Hardy Boys down there just so they can, they only have to work one day a week and they can rest up. The problem is, though, is that all these guys are not going to be happy if you do that because all of a sudden their pay is going to go way down because they're only working one day a week instead of 4 days a week. And they're going to want the money when business is hot. You know what I mean? Because we all know business isn't going to stay at this level forever. And you know, everyone in wrestling wants to be out there on the road right now, especially in WWF, where your pay is determined by business, that when you're still drawing sellouts, you want to be out there because, you know, I mean, the bumps hurt just as much to an empty house, if you know what I mean, but the pay's not as good.
I'm sure they could cut some sort of deal where they go, look, we'll pay you for this many house shows a week just for the time being till we start touring with this company, and, you know.
There's ways they could do
They're going to have to
it. It's
do
just a question, will they?
they
WWF can do anything they want. It's just a question, will they do it?
Yeah.
Yeah, they could. Yeah, of course they could. Anything else?
What's going to happen with the power plant?
Yeah.
I would presume it'll be shut. You know, I pretty strongly presume.
Maybe everyone will show up tomorrow and they'll be having the meeting outside.
Yeah, that's right, because they get the big meeting at the power plant.
So Paul Orndorff and all them are out of jobs there.
So, I mean, WWF may take some of them. But,
as far as trainers at the power plant, they're out of jobs. But
yeah, but they may not. They may take, as far as for the power plant guys, yeah, I don't know their odds are that good of being hired as trainers, because WWF already has their own trainers.
Think Hacksaw will be in the Battle Royal?
Duggan?
Yeah.
If they ask him, I'm sure he will. If they don't ask him, it's up to WWF bookers. I don't know.
Okay, well, thanks.
Okay, very welcome. Let's go to Al in St. Louis. Al, what's going on?
Hi, Brian and Dave.
hey.
I have a question. Is this deal is the WWF deal to buy WCW, is it like 100% final?
No, it is not 100% final, but I don't expect it to fall apart because there's nobody else to sell to.
Okay.
So, you know, it will probably be final by the end of the week, as far as final, but they've signed, you know, it's basically as final as the Fusion deal was to buy WCW in January, which has turned out never happened.
Okay. Okay, and one more, and another thing, so what's going to happen to, like, the non-wrestling staff in WCW, like the executives and the people who run the website?
I don't think anyone knows the answer to that right now. That's all up to WWF.
They're going to need to keep some of the office crew just to take some of the strain off their own office crew. I mean, people that can do jobs and aren't, you know, they're obviously not going to take someone that is going to do like what Jim Ross is doing because he's going to be in charge of that. But someone who maybe, I don't know, maybe like someone who's booking the arenas, they'll keep them or something.
I think they're going to book their own arenas.
Really?
Yeah, I am pretty sure of that one. Yeah, they'll book their own arenas. Because you got to remember, the people who are booking the arenas, they've booked the arenas during a time period where they were running 6 nights a week with 3 shows a night. So now running 4 nights a week, the idea of like having to give them an extra night, you know what I mean?
Okay.
That crew has booked 1,000 shows a year. Now they're booking 200. So, and it's the same crew. So the idea of like if it increases from 200 to say 300 shows, they're not going to hire like the people from WCW to do that.
Okay. And so is the plan right now to have like the WCW up like on Saturday nights on TNN?
That's the plan as of right now, yeah.
Okay. And another thing, Missy Hyde mentioned a website called ringrats.com. What is the website? Do you know what the address is?
Brian might, I don't know.
What is
Ringrats.
it?
There's a dash after the ring, though. Ring-rats.com.
Ring-rats.com. Okay. And another question, one last question. Are all the WWF pay-per-views this year still set? You know, are they all still set?
The WCW?
WWF things? Yeah, they're all set.
The WWF pay-per-views.
WWF pay-per-views are all going to be the same, yeah.
Okay. Well, thank you very much.
Okay, very welcome. Let's go to Jonathan in New York. Jonathan, what's going on?
Yes, how are you doing, Dave?
Doing really good.
First off, I want to know, now that Vince McMahon has become the Julius Caesar of wrestling, what does Eric Bischoff have to say about all this?
As far as, I think he's very, very disappointed.
I mean, what is he doing now?
I don't know what he's doing now. Probably trying to sell non-wrestling television shows like he did with that, what was that thing called with the cars? I forget. I'm sure he's going to try to come up with...
Right.
I don't even remember the name of it anymore. Something on wheels. I don't know.
Okay.
But no, I think he'll probably try to do something in the television industry, I'm guessing.
Right. And now that the WWF purchase of WCW is not final, you said, right?
It's not 100% final, but this one's really not going to fall apart though, because there's no way it can. I guess is the best way of putting it.
So does that leave like an open slot for like the lower companies such as XPW or UPW or anything like that to make it, boom?
I mean, it would leave some talent for those guys to get if those pieces of talent are willing to work cheap enough to fit into those companies' budgets. I mean, like, I'll just give you an example for UPW, okay?
Right.
UPW only runs one show a month in the Galaxy Theater. It holds about 700-plus people, and they're going to draw 700 people. They fill it every single month. So, yeah, they could add 10 great guys, Jerry Lawler and Buff Bagwell and Luger and Steiner Brothers and all this. But they're, all it's going to do is cost them money because it's not going to make them an extra dime. So, so it's like, economically, yeah, you can do it. Yeah, there's more guys out there. If it's done right and the guys are willing to work within the independent framework of money, yeah, it can help the independents. It can. This can help it a little bit.
I don't really know how much help it's going to be, though, because if you look back, like, a few weeks ago, we were talking about all the ECW guys that went off and were doing independents, and it wasn't like they were doing shows that all of a sudden were doing 3,000 people. They were working shows with 150 people, just like any other.
No, that's right. They haven't made any difference really at all. The only independent shows. The only show, I shouldn't say independent, but the only shows in this country that are really drawing over 1,000 people were the last 2 weeks. AAA did one, and the Lucha shows, and the Ultimate Fight shows. I mean, the independent wrestling, very rarely draws 1,000 people now. So it's
you're
those
not going to get
really
a big star like Lex Luger or Kevin Nash to come in for $500. They're going to want just a ton of money. And the guys that are going to come in for $500 aren't going to mean probably $500 worth of tickets.
Well, then, what happened to Vince Russo? Whatever happened to that guy?
He's still alive, and he's just collecting his money from WCW.
I mean, oh man! And apparently, does ECW still exist?
The letters still exist. I think Vince McMahon owns the letters now. I'm pretty sure he does.
Oh, okay.
So it is, I think they've got the rights to it.
Okay, and one last question. What the heck is McMahon doing with Taz, man? Why the hell is he just, like, sitting around? I mean, isn't he, fit to get his push like Raven did?
Well, Raven hasn't gotten that big of a push either. It's real tough. It's a competitive situation, and I think Taz is actually doing pretty well for himself. If he was wrestling, he'd be dead by now.
The fact that he's doing the human suplex machine in ECW, he was feared, man. Come on,
Wait a second now.
He was feared because Paulie was a great booker, but when you got a guy who's 5'6", in WWF with all those huge guys, the whole size thing just changed the whole dynamic.
Well, speaking of huge, I was thinking he'd go against the Big Show and just have like a David and Goliath thing, and he just beat
and choke him out.
Yeah, he just beat the crap out of the Big Show. That would have been real great,
Well, it would be great if you could convince Vince McMahon to do it, but that's not Vince McMahon's mentality. I mean, we're still trying to convince him to let Benoit beat the Big Show, and that hasn't happened yet either.
Hey, why was the XFL rating down this week?
Yeah, there you go. The XFL sucks. It's basically based on those cheerleaders of Vince McMahon's. It's mass. I don't know. It's just no liking to it. I'll stick with the NFL.
Okay.
Thank you very much. Oh, and I'm real sorry about the WCW purchase thing. I hope Bischoff has something else planned or whatever.
Okay.
Thank you very much, guys. Nice speaking with you.
This guy has every question we've been ranting about on the website.
Let's go to Arthur. Arthur, what's up?
Hey, Dave. First off, I have a question about WCW, but before I get to that, I was just wondering, why did you spend a half hour on mixed martial arts when today's like the biggest story in pro wrestling?
Because there were over 20,000 people, and it was the biggest wrestling show of the last 3 months in Japan, and we do cover Japan on the show.
Yeah, but I mean, like, everyone wanted to know what was going on with WCW.
Well, and that's what we're talking about, too. But there was a huge show on Sunday night.
Tomorrow will be the day.
Okay, and I was just wondering another thing. Why do you always go to emails before the callers?
That's just tradition.
Tradition? Okay, like the NWA?
It's got nothing to do with the NWA. It's just the first segment of the show we talk about the news. The second segment we usually do emails. We got a little bit behind on this one. We change it around a little bit, and that's just the way we do it.
Okay, and then my question is, do you think Jerry Lawler will end up as the announcer for WCW?
If he's willing to come in without his wife, he's got a good shot at it. If he's not willing to come in without his wife, then he's got no shot at it. I think it's the same. It's the same situation it was a week ago.
Right. And do you think Kat's going to become like a stripper or something?
I don't think so.
No.
I don't think so. I don't know. I don't know what she's going to do.
I mean, she's
No,
Kat's
going to stay in. Kat's going to stay in wrestling and work Memphis every Saturday morning. I'm sure that's what she'll do. Anything else?
He's gone.
He's gone. Let's go to Mark. Mark, what's up?
Mark.
Hello?
Mark in Brooklyn.
Yeah.
Hey, yeah, I have a question for you. Whatever happened to Jerry the King Lawler?
Jerry Lawler quit WWF a couple weeks ago.
Oh, yeah?
Because they fired his wife.
Who's his wife?
Kat.
Oh, word.
Right.
I have one more question for you. What's this whole thing with Stone Cold Steve Austin and Vince McMahon? And they supposed to be joining up together now?
Good shot. Good shot of it, yeah.
Okay, that's all I had, man. Thanks a lot.
Okay. Let's look at some of this. This is from Ben Smith, who goes, the only positive long-run result of WWF buying WCW is hopefully guys like Nash, Bagwell, Luger, and the Steiners won't work in a big promotion again. Now, somebody will start something, and they will. So will Sting and Goldberg be on Nitro tonight? As far as I know, no. Does Sting have any interest in joining WCW? Whether he does or he doesn't, I think financially it doesn't make any sense for him to do so.
Yeah.
Let's see. Do you think any of the following people have a chance to make it in WCW? Jason Jett?
Yep.
Good shot. Good shot. Dave Cash? Shot. Lenny Lane? Maybe no. Juventud Guerrera? Not right now. Sabu? Not for a long time, if ever. Let's see. This is from Jack, who goes, am I the only person who thinks this change should be welcomed? Wrestling has been stale for a while now. This is what everyone always wrote fantasy columns about, and finally it has come true. Your fantasy may be better than the reality on this one. Maybe not. We'll see. With Vince McMahon behind the wheel of the new operation, don't you think it will eventually lead to exciting sports entertainment? I think that it will probably do that. I just think that, it's just such a tough time for the wrestlers. And this is from Duncan, who goes, in his conference call, Triple H talked about Ric Flair being his hero, and talked about in his match at No Way Out, he did the Ric Flair flop, figure four. Actually, he didn't do the Ric Flair flop. He did the Harley Race thing, which he does in a lot of his big matches. Figure four leg lock, which, in fact, Helmsley does a lot in his matches. A lot of people talk about Triple H as the new Ric Flair because he draws big heat. He can work different styles. Cuts a good promo, can carry anyone to a 3-star match, politically smart. So now that WWF owns WCW, are they going to job Flair to Helmsley to help cement that image? Who knows? I mean, it's possible. I mean, Flair would have to come, which I know that they want Flair, so I think that would probably end up happening. Mm-hmm. As far as Flair coming in, working with Helmsley, if Helmsley wants to do it, I'm sure Flair would love the opportunity. If
Helmsley wants to do it, I think he'd die for it.
Well, then there's a good shot it'll happen. We are still getting tons of emails. This is like record-setting pace. It's from Ryan, who goes, is Shawn Michaels still supposed to be on Raw tonight? The last I heard, which was, what would this have been? Saturday night, Shawn Michaels and Mick Foley were still scheduled. I've talked to people, but I haven't asked anyone since then. Let's see. Will all the faces
Michael, send him over.
That's not the worst idea.
Not to be doing house shows? Just be on TV?
Not doing house shows. Just come at TV, work maybe once a month, but do interviews the other 3 weeks.
Big name?
Yep. That's a good idea. It says, Pro Wrestling Torture reported that Shane McMahon is in Panama City. Oh, he absolutely is. I can tell you that. The website also reports there will be a live feed from Nitro on Raw. Their sources are very good. Let's see. Would not the move of a WWF wrestler to WCW affect their financial situation? Yes, it would. For example, if they sent Triple H to WCW, he would not be on house shows on Raw or SmackDown, and he would not receive money for doing house shows and would basically be working 4 to 5 days a month instead of 15 days a month. And do you know if they would use WCW rings instead of WF rings? I don't know what they're going to do about the rings. The whole deal is, if they were to do that and send a guy over, they're going to have to restructure their contracts to make it worthwhile, or else it's unfair to the guys. Mm-hmm. But the thing is, since they own both companies, there's no reason they cannot restructure the contract to do that. Let's see. Your panel was wrong about Shane McMahon. He has nothing to prove. He has taken more bumps than the majority of WCW talent. He hasn't taken more. He hasn't taken more. He hasn't taken more than almost any WCW talent. He's taken some big bumps, that's for sure. He has experienced the business from the ground up, and you would think that some of Vince would rub off. But he has not proven anything as a promoter on his own. And this won't be him proving anything in reality as a promoter on his own, because it's Titan Sports. It's not Shane McMahon. But from a public standpoint, that's what this is all. That's part of what this is all about. Did WWF pick up the contracts of Mike Modest and Christopher Daniels? No. I don't think they had contracts. They were going to be signed after Bischoff got the company. Mm-hmm. Chris from Thompson, Manitoba goes, when you ask the poll whether it's good for wrestlers, it should be divided into 3 categories. Good for main eventers, which it is. Actually, it's bad for the main eventers.
It's bad for the main eventers.
Good for mid-carders, good for mid-carders, which it can be. It can be very good for the mid-carders if they get a chance and make it. There's some guys, and there are going to be some guys who are going to come out real good with this that were held back. Good for the curtain jerkers, which it won't be. Actually, it's probably going to be the same for those of them that stay. Because they weren't going to get a big push in WCW anyway.
No.
I was looking at the active WWF roster, not including the females. It's got 52 active male wrestlers on their roster. If you count the women, developmental WCW guys, you go over 100, which has to be one of the largest rosters ever. Yeah, WCW had a huge roster a couple of years ago. Weren't they up to like 150 at one point?
They were at I think it was some huge number.
You know, when they were just like making money like crazy and they just signed everyone they could?
Hired everybody.
This is from Jeff from California. How can any of the WCW wrestlers under contract like Sting, Nash, and Goldberg refuse to appear on Nitro Night if asked? Isn't that a violation of their guaranteed contracts? How can they say no and still get a paycheck? I have wondered that one myself, and I don't know the answer, but I think that because they were asked by Eric Bischoff, who is no longer in control of the show tonight, that they're not saying no to anyone from Time Warner. You know what I mean? As to a superior.
I just kind of figured it was like, even if Vince McMahon told them to show up and they didn't, it's not like he can terminate someone who's under a Time Warner contract.
Exactly. Unless someone from Time Warner told them that they had to come, in which case, which hasn't happened.
But why would they do that? Why does Time Warner care anymore?
Yeah. Let's see. Explain why the WWF would book Austin and Rock against Undertaker and Kane. We'll find out tonight. I'm sure they have a good idea. They're all faces. How does the crowd know who to cheer for?
They will cheer for Steve Austin.
They're going to cheer for who they want to cheer for, and they're going to cheer for him loud. They may cheer for all of them. The only sense the match can make is if Vince ordered it to happen. I'm kind of tired of that being the only reason why a main event happens. Let's see. I think that WWF buying WCW and running it separate is better than the alternative of dead WCW. It is better than that alternative. That's true. If the WWF order will allow WCW to die instead of buying them, it actually would have been the same exact thing. They would still pick up the ones who they want to at a low price. I mean, that would actually make no difference one way or the other.
It would make no difference for the wrestlers as far as for the fans.
It would give them a chance to see...
If they didn't have like the WCW trademark and everything like that and have the desire to keep it alive.
Yeah. This is from George, who goes, I watched The Last Thunder on Wednesday, and I just was about to change the channel on the Dustin Rhodes segment. Ric Flair appeared and started to cut his promo. During the promo, the Nature Boy set fire to what was a trash segment. Also electrified the crowd, which wasn't close to capacity.
I don't know if he electrified the crowd.
My point is, all the Mark fans in me from the last Wednesday until whenever it happens cannot wait for Rick to walk down the ramp on Raw and pop a capacity crowd. Which brings me to my question, will any WCW wrestlers appear on Raw? I think eventually they're going to have to. I don't think there's any doubt about that. Just to build up Raw, just to shoot angles, to tell people to watch on Saturday nights when the thing starts. Let's start with Alan in Florida. Alan, what's up?
Doing today?
Hey.
Hey, I had a few questions. You guys, about the roster with the WCW, how big do you think the roster should be? Evidently, we know they're not going to take all their, the talent. I mean, are they going to get most of the other talent, I guess, from their development territories and stuff like that? Or independent?
I think it depends.
I'm sure they'll bring in some ECW guys. They may bring in a few of their developmental guys like Steve Bradley or Scott Vick that they've been wanting to bring to the main show, but just haven't had a slot open for them.
They're not going to bring up any guys that aren't ready.
No, it'd be stupid to do that.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think they will do that.
How big do you think their roster should be? I mean, it's not. I mean, how many?
You got to do 2 hours of TV. 2 hours of TV every week. Yeah, maybe 35 guys.
That should be decent enough. How about tag teams, though? Is there enough tag teams even on their roster?
Well, they can get as many as they want. Whatever they want, they're going to hire anyway.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not a number. It's like whoever they want, they're going to hire. Whoever they don't want, they're not going to hire. And it's up to the people, the booking people, to figure out what they want and don't want, and who fits into their plans.
Now, do you think also McMahon some of the wrestlers from WCW, like some of them might, how he's a genius for gimmicks and stuff? You don't think he's going to change some of their, give them characters? Some of them that,
Oh, absolutely, he will. Absolutely.
Yeah. One more quick question. You guys, somebody was asking before about ECW. I heard something on the net. I don't know, on one of those news boards. It doesn't mean it's, accurate information or whatever. But that McMahon might, use that as a development group. How he has, the big two? He might buy them, I guess.
They could do that, but I don't think they will. And the reason I say that is that they've already got developmental things in Memphis, Puerto Rico, and Ohio Valley. They really don't need. They've got more guys in developmental than they'll ever know what to do with, so why add another developmental territory? There's just no purpose to it now. They still may do it. I'm just thinking, I'm looking at it from a logical standpoint. You don't need more than 3. And
I mean, they already just got WCW. I don't know why they would want to have a third group owned by. I mean, we all know it would be run by them, but.
Yeah, they'll probably use the ECW name in some form or fashion in an angle, sooner than later. But I don't see them like running ECW shows, and certainly not ECW style shows. They may, I don't see it.
Yeah, I don't see it either. All right, well, it was nice talking to you, and first time caller, and I like your show. It's pretty good, and I'll continue listening to it.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Let's go to Andy in Long Island. Andy, what's up?
Hey, what's up, guys? Dave, I'm a first-time caller, but a long-time fan of the Wrestling Observer.
Thank you.
You are definitely a genius in this business, and you have a big part no matter what anybody says.
Oh, thanks.
No, I'm very sincere when I say that. Anyhow, just a little note. I don't know if you heard Sandman jobbed out to 2 New Jersey indie workers this past week, and he put over Jerry DeBall on Homicide for Jersey All-Pro.
Uh-huh. What about
Actually, put Homicide over in the ECW arena. I know it doesn't mean a lot, but I guess 3 or 4 months ago that would have been a huge story.
Yeah, Sandman losing at the ECW arena to the I heard about that, yeah.
Also, it's a shame that NWA doesn't have their, you-know-what together, because this would be a perfect time if they had some money behind them and something going on for them to really build things up and become a major force in this business.
It would be the perfect time for anyone with a lot of money who could secure television. It is the perfect time for anyone like that. The problem is the money in the television.
TV.
Yeah.
It's just terrible for guys like Mike Rapata. Because, Mike Rapata's a world champion, but he has nowhere to show himself off anymore.
The thing is, if they actually had talent, then Mike Rapata wouldn't be the world champion, so it's kind of like a double-edged sword.
I know, I kind of said that tongue-in-cheek. I don't know if you caught any Apprentice's shows lately. It's pretty bad. I mean, he's got, like, Tony Falk doing his gimmick. Have you heard this yet? 2 Falk for sure. He's doing, like, a white guy acting like Tupac.
Yeah, I saw that when he did that gimmick in Memphis, like, about a year ago.
Oh, my God, it's awful. And what's the story of the New South gimmick, by the way?
The New South, it's like, it's like 2 guys. It's an Australian guy and a African American guy who are kind of pretending to be like, good old boy Confederate rebels.
What was the origin of it? Do you know?
I think just that idea that the South will rise again, and all the rednecks, in that area, are like wave the Confederate flag. That's always been kind of a thing, like Southern boys and all that. And to have like an African American and an Australian do it, that's the heat behind it.
Because I really think that Corey Williams, it's another guy who's going to be hurt by this whole thing. Because I think it would a little feel like a coach like a Paul Heyman to help him out with his mic skills. He could be a major force in this business.
Really? I haven't seen enough of him.
I'm not crazy about Ashley Hudson, though.
Yeah. Ashley Hudson was with Daphne, and then that was another one of those angles. Ozzy, yeah.
The great Ozzy.
He went to Australia and never came back.
They went to Australia, and that was it.
And do you guys really think Jason Jett's going to get picked up? Because I think he's got a huge future.
I think strongly. I'd be very surprised if he wasn't, because he did real well on the last few weeks of TV, and I cannot imagine when they consult with various people, when WF consults with various people, and they go through the list of people in WCW and ask, okay, what do you think of Jason Jett? I can't imagine anyone going like, I would be shocked if he's not picked up.
And you're pretty sure we're going to see Rey Mysterio?
Rey Mysterio, I am not sure of. They were very negative on Rey Mysterio, but I know some people went to bat for him, like Benoit and them, at the Garden the other night to Stephanie McMahon. So, I'm tending to think that they will pick up Rey Mysterio when all is said and done.
I think the negative Conan rub just really hurts him, and really I think he's a great worker and a great innovator, and he does have a place in this business.
But why? I don't understand why. You can't be judged by the fact, like, who your friends are. I mean, everyone in this world's got some pretty unsavory friends, except for Brian, but...
Oh, yeah.
I think it's a terrible preconceived notion that they have about Ray, and I don't think it's true.
Yeah, I mean, like Hunter's friends with Nash. Does that mean they ought to fire him?
Yeah, just incredible for that matter.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I'm going to get going. Thanks for taking my call. This is Sweet Andy Rapata saying, woo!
Okay, cool. Let's go. Okay, I'm going to read this from Andy Patrizio, who's been trying to get in. He goes, as for WCW, perhaps the 11 to 1 hour will allow for more raunchy stuff, but that time slot just plain stinks. I hope they use WCW as the work rate federation with emphasis on light heavyweights. I think that they're going to do emphasis on light heavyweights just because that's the guys who they've got signed.
They're going to have light heavyweights.
Yeah, I think that, yeah. I mean, I don't think it's like something that McMahon would want to do, but I think that it's just going to end up that way. Okay. My idea for an angle with the group would be for them to resist the WWF domination and do some sort of a breakaway Declaration of Independence type angle. Imagine the fun Steve Regal could have with a rogue federation declaring its independence from King Vince. Actually, that sounds pretty funny.
It actually does.
It really does.
I don't know if anyone would take it seriously, though, just because of the way they look at Regal, but for us, it's pretty funny.
But just for fun.
Yeah.
You mentioned that a startup would have an impossible time due to the talent being locked up. But if someone comes along with deep pockets, the first thing they should do is challenge the legality of WWF contracts. If wrestlers are subcontractors, shouldn't they be legally allowed to subcontract elsewhere? Boy, this is something that's been around for about 10 years.
And don't hold your breath at this time of anything like that happening.
Yeah, if there's
Who's the first guy that's going to go knock on Vince's door and go, Vince, I got something to talk to you about regarding my contract.
I'm an independent contractor, and I got an opportunity to work. You know, the only guy who ever got away with...
I got an opportunity to work the Wild Side show this weekend, Vince, if you if you don't want to negotiate.
You know, there's one guy who actually got away with it during the NWA WWF wars in the 80s. Roddy Piper still worked for Don Owen. It was I don't know how he ever did it, but he did. If there's legal, I don't know if it's against the law or how contracts are worded, but I do know the contracts are totally against the workers. God knows they are. So I'd love to know if this is a weakness for the WWF. As for another dead federation, I found it from a local exercise store where the WOW girls visit that they lost their advertisers over the pay-per-view.
Oh, come on now. How can that be?
Yeah, Selena Majors was not supposed to juice, but she did hit a gusher, and that scared off their advertisers. That combined with them not paying for television time anymore is probably why they're off the air here in L.A. I think it's not paying for the TV time especially. And they haven't run a show since. It's bad enough they screwed up their big chance in front of a huge live audience with bad booking, but the juice made it even worse. By the way, Roxy Powers is going to be in the new Spider-Man movie, which could be visually amusing, seeing Tobey Maguire, the star of the movie, who's built like Taka, standing next to a 6-foot woman built like China. Finally, you've talked about how out of favor wrestling is right now with cable. Why with a 5.0 rating on basic cable would it be out of favor? I don't know why, but it just is. He goes, I suspect the answer is Lionel Tate. His defense was totally wrong, but he used wrestling as an excuse. The media covered it big, and what he did to that girl in graphic detail, I think Tate soured a lot of people on pro wrestling, and totally wrongfully. You were right. That is one of the things that keeps getting brought up, and it is completely unfair. I, for one, am bummed about the failure of the XFL. I've come to enjoy the games now that the play has improved. The first month it stunk, no question. In hindsight, they should have gone on the air only in the 8 cities where they have teams for the first year to work out the bugs, then go national the second year. Vince does have an argument about media bias. The XFL has higher ratings in L.A. than the Lakers, and local media can't be bothered to do more than cursory coverage. The local NBC affiliate ran Vince's comments 2 weeks ago about how he feels play has improved and people should give it a second look. They ran it like an editorial with no commentary from the local sports anchor, since one of the sports anchors without an opinion. It wouldn't have killed Carlos to say something along the lines that, yes, the play was shaky at first, but it has improved, but he couldn't be bothered. One thing I don't understand is why they don't move the Saturday show. When a primetime show is struggling, they move the time slot without hesitation. Here we have week after week of declining ratings, and it remains in primetime. Why don't they just move it to 5 Eastern and be done with it? Because I think they got other programming, that's why. Let's go to, is it Chris? Chris? Is Chris next up? Yes, Chris.
Hi. How's it going?
Hey, Chris, how are you doing?
Okay. I was curious, a couple of things. The Steiner thing that was up on his website, was that just, do you think there's any possibility that there's something to that wasn't just him being, not too bright and putting that up? Because, he mentions the NWO as if it's like an actual
That was put up by, it wasn't put up by Scott, it was put up by someone, like one of his web people.
The webmaster. But
I think that site is down today, so.
Yeah, they said something about they were going to close, but wouldn't anything they put up, since it's like representing him, especially something like that, wouldn't he sort of have to okay it or tell him, hey, put this up?
That I don't know. I don't know for sure. I was under the, I don't know. I think that it was something that they put up on their own, and it didn't have anything to do with him.
Nobody's going to be stupid enough to be unprofessional, shoot on somebody, or anything like that if they even remotely want to work for the WWF.
That's what I mean. But that's why I'm saying if these guys work for him, and you know what I mean, for them to be.
They should not
putting that up there. Exactly. That's what I mean. So either he knew about it and let them, because, would they be dumb enough of all people to piss off? Are they going to piss him off? You know what I mean? To put something
over the Internet, people will say and do a lot of things.
That's true.
Yeah. People piss a lot of people off on that without thinking of the long-term repercussions.
Yeah.
All Scott has to do is go tonight, be a professional, and say, dude, I didn't even know what that was up there. I didn't do it.
And then just do the job.
Didn't
as long as he does the job, as long as he does the job, everyone will be happy.
Yeah, because they said he was trying to get fans to I don't know if it was him or the website, but they were trying to get fans to write to the WWF to convince them to hire him because they're supposedly so sour on him.
Yep, that's right.
I heard something too. I don't know if this is true or just some rumor that Jason Jett and Sean O'Hare had some kind of a run-in backstage.
Yes, they did.
They did have that. Yeah, there was something about him.
That. Yeah, a couple weeks ago. I think maybe 2 weeks
ago.
I
heard was he choked him out because that O'Hare choked Jett out or something because he was kind of walking around with a big head.
I don't know why he did it, but that was the end result I heard. Yeah.
Yeah, he did choke him out. Okay. Yeah. Also, too, the Battle Royal at WrestleMania, are they actually going to go through with that, or is that some kind of, or somewhere that might be like an April Fool's joke or something?
I think they'll go through with it.
It'll be an April Fool's joke, that's for sure.
Yeah.
But that's something that actually it's going to be done in just as an actual match, or just
Yeah, hopefully it'll be kept short. I think it'll just be a lot of ring entrances, and then they'll just try to get the match over with as quick as they can.
You think it might work in Pete Rose being at the show or something? Maybe in the kimchi outfit
or
gobbledygook?
Yeah, everyone's saying
outfit.
Yeah, gobbledygook.
Yeah, everyone's expecting that, but they may do it.
Hardcore match.
What?
Maybe even attack Candy in a hardcore match since it's it's a hardcore match.
Probably. It's
like
that.
The thing with Pete Rose, everyone expects it'll be Pete Rose because he'll win this Battle Royal. But in order for that to happen, that means it actually has to go to a finish, which means guys like the Iron Sheik have to bump over the top rope. And I don't think that's going to happen. I think someone's going to run in and just end the thing and beat everyone up, and they can just roll out.
Yeah.
Yeah. On the WCW end, does they have the deal with Michael Buffer? Does Vince have to honor that he has to?
No.
He doesn't?
No, he does not.
No. Okay, I was just curious.
That was not among the 16 contracts or 24 contracts that were bought.
Well, what I meant was,
we don't know about those other 9 names, though.
No, I think that I would have heard if Buffer was one of the names.
Okay.
The ones that they bought, this is the only part I don't understand. They bought them because they were the cheapest ones or good prices or whatever. But they're going to renegotiate those anyway and renegotiate the high ones. So why did it matter that they bought these cheap ones to? You know what I mean? Why do they have
because the cheap ones, these guys don't have a chance to go anywhere. The other ones, the other ones that it's a lot more tricky, and I think that they want to put pressure on them to come in with a lower price. Whereas the other guys, the cheap ones, they don't care if they come in with they know that they don't got to come in with they don't have to give these guys a lower price to come in because they already got a lower price starting out.
Right.
So just keep them. You know what I mean?
But I heard of the 24 that they're not all necessarily going to be kept. Is that true?
No, not. I would think that they all have a good shot, but if one of them screws up, no, of course they won't be kept.
Well, I meant not even for screwing up, just initially that it was just sort of a paper thing that they did, that they had to take a certain amount of contracts, do that just for...
No, they didn't have to take any contracts. Okay. They did that. They just looked at the contracts and go, okay, wait, this guy makes this. Hey, we don't mind that. This guy makes this. We don't mind that. This guy makes this. Screw that,
Right.
But I mean, if the guys if a guy was cheap and they didn't want him, they wouldn't have taken him. There's no point in buying a contract of a guy you don't want.
I'm surprised they took Stage X. Didn't he leave on bad terms with the tape recording other wrestlers?
Yeah, but the whole thing.
It wasn't really so much bad terms as something that actually really might have been a misunderstanding.
And also, Stasiak's one of those guys. He's always going to get a shot.
Yeah, Billy Gunn kind of thing.
Yeah, the same. Yeah, they're going to give him a shot.
God, they could be a tag team now.
God,
Billy Gunn and Stasiak,
I'd rather them be a team than wrestle each other, though. Have an actual one-on-one match.
Chris, we got to get running, okay?
Okay.
And Brian, you want to guess how many emails we got today?
132.
273.
Oh my God.
Yep. I'm going to go to about 5 of them, then we're going to finish up with the phone calls. We've got a full bank of phone calls. We've had it since the start of the show. Who's going to call WrestleMania? Will it be Ross and Heyman? Yes, as of right now, it is Ross and Heyman. And will Pete Rose be there? For some reason, I assume that he will, but no one's actually told me that he will. It's from Ben Miller. It goes, Roddy Piper told me the show he did in Denver drew 2,500. Is that true? No, but it drew like 1,400 or 1,500. I had the number in the Observer a couple of weeks ago, which was like the paid attendance. I think it was I'm guessing 1,450 range. The reason I ask is the comment that no indie promotions are drawing 1,000. Actually, even bringing in older stars. Well, Piper, of guys out there, Piper probably would draw more than most, just because he was really a huge name in his day. Mm-hmm. But, yeah, Piper did draw over 1,000. That's true. Will Doug Dillinger keep his job as head of security? I would guess not.
Why not? They got to have a head of security.
Yeah, I just guess not. I think they would maybe be looking for a younger guy. Let's see. If Time Warner wants to get out of the guaranteed contracts, couldn't they assign them to McMahon? McMahon doesn't want them. That's the problem. They could. I'm sure that they want. I'm sure they want him. They want badly to give them to McMahon, but he didn't want them. So that's the basic gist of it. Is it true that WCW moved to TNN at 11 p.m.? Will that not affect Kill Wrestling as we know it? Wrestling as we know it is changing greatly. Kill is too strong of a word, but it's going to change. Let's see. Does the new ownership have any interest in DDP? They have interest in DDP, yes. Even if built up for 6 months to a year, do you see anyone other than Booker T who is more of a mid-carder and could be taken seriously as an interpromotional pay-per-view?
If built up for a year? What's his question? Is there anybody that could headline like an interpromotional pay-per-view?
Yeah, other than Booker T.
You gotta look at all the guys that went from WCW to WWF and became huge. There were a lot of them.
You mean like Austin and people like Austin and Helmsley?
I'm sure there's some guys over there that they could be something in a year.
Headline a pay-per-view? I mean, the guys that they're the most excited about are like Helms and Kidman, and I don't know that they'll ever be main eventers on a pay-per-view.
Mm-hmm. Well, if it's built up for a year and they send someone from the WWF over right now, in a year there'll be a WCW guy ready to headline a pay-per-view.
Let's see. Let's go. We'll go to Ed in Texas. Ed, what's going on?
Dave, I wanted to ask, what's going to happen with WCW Worldwide?
I think it's got about a week or two to go, and then that'll be it. Originally, the show that was taped this week, which I think would air this coming Saturday, was originally supposed to be the last show, and I think that they actually called it like it was the last show, and then when it was over, they were going like, hey, let's do 2 more. So I think they may, either next week, within the next 3 weeks, it'll be over. But I'm not sure.
So the WWF, isn't going to be able to pick up their time slots on all the syndications?
I guess if they want to and they want to pay for them, they can, but I don't think that they're going to bother.
Count on it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Especially a show like Worldwide that nobody really watches.
Okay. Well, also I wanted to ask, the guys who are on Luger and Buff and Steiner, did they show up today? Do you know?
If they're supposed to, I think if they're supposed to, that they're all there.
Okay.
I'm sure if they want Flair ain't gonna no-show. I mean, Luger, no, who is? I mean, it's like anyone who thinks they're on the bubble, they're not gonna no-show tonight.
Yeah,
There's
but
no
if we
way.
so agreed, you would think that anyone who thinks they're on the bubble isn't going to go into business for themselves. But
that was a very poor choice of things to do. And don't
look at Rick
think
Steiner last Monday.
That was a very poor choice of things to do. The only reason why that may not kill him is because the WWF probably doesn't have a big interest in Conan. Like, if he had done that to, like, say, like Chavo Guerrero or Shane Helms or Billy Kidman, he'd have no prayer. I think he probably still has no prayer.
It's an act of unprofessionalism,
No, it's totally unprofessional. Doesn't matter who you do it.
If they want to clean up the locker room, they need to get rid of guys like that are going to go into business for themselves.
And they will. They will. That's the one thing. There may be guys that go into business for themselves on Nitro, but nobody will ever do it a second time. Anything else?
And also, I wanted to ask, what is the reality of the 24-hour wrestling channel? How could that really happen?
It could happen, but both Vince and Linda McMahon have said that they have no plans to do so anytime in the future, near future. But I mean, some 5 years down the line, if wrestling gets super popular, I don't, they got enough tape, it's a possibility, but it's not like in the imminent plans.
I think it's a good idea because, I would probably end up watching 2 to 3 hours every day of some of it, and I'm sure most fans would end up watching a couple hours at least a day.
You may be right, but at the same time, it's cheap programming. But the negative is that when you can see so much of it every week, it may dilute the ratings for the shows that they really want you to see.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So there's a lot of ways of looking at it. Too much product isn't necessarily good in the long run for the business.
But you also got to look at how some of those, those high-profile golf tournaments do, despite the fact that they have the Golf Channel.
True.
It'd be first run. The important shows would be first-run programming, and I think that those would always do okay, even if there were the classic wrestling channel.
Yeah, but we didn't have a 24-hour wrestling channel this last year. But one of the reasons that I think that these companies folded was because we had primetime wrestling every night of the week, and it ceased to become something special.
Yeah, but it was first run.
Yeah, I know, but it was too much.
Yeah.
So,
a classic wrestling channel, I'm just looking at it as, this would not be first-run programming. It'd be just like, the classic movie network or classic anything network. That's not hurting, like, modern shows, first-run programming.
You're right. The key really is that, and I don't have an answer, and no one really does until it's tried. there's a theory that that a very small percentage of wrestling fans are actually interested in old wrestling, and they're only interested in modern wrestling. And if it's out there, and that's the case, and they're not interested in history, like sports fans generally have more interest in you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
In history of sports than wrestling fans. And if that's the case, then historical wrestling matches, in a business that, except for people like us, really has no history, that may not have a great appeal.
But it's like something we've talked about before, that there's a reason that modern fans don't care about history. It's because they've been taught not to care about history. And if
Right.
it's out there for them to watch, I mean, they may be huge for it.
And you know what? Again, you know what it is? It depends on how it's presented and how it's tied together.
Mm-hmm.
If it's tied together well, it's viable. I mean, it's viable. They have it in Japan. So,
yeah.
Why couldn't they have it here? I think they may have one in Germany too, but I'm not sure.
Okay, and one final question that I have is Hector Guerrero going to be doing the Googly Gooker at WrestleMania?
Possible. He was the original one. I don't know for sure though. I got this feeling
that's a big costume to fill. If he can't be there, they may not have the gobbledygook.
All right.
Okay, guys. Well, thanks a lot.
Okay, very welcome, Ed. Let's go to Alex in Ottawa. Alex.
How you doing?
Hey,
we're doing pretty good.
I got a little bit of a comment here. Jason Jett, I think he's a great worker and all, but I don't know
his
if you guys
finisher's horrible.
Does that guy have not the worst tights in the world? Like his ring attire, does it not disgust you, or is it just me? Because not since Brutus the Barber Beefcake have I seen anything that ugly.
It's like this guy who doesn't really have a good body wearing a stripper outfit. Yeah. I know. I used to like.
A lot of people
when
share that thought, by the way.
Remember when he was working in ECW? I used to think the same thing. It was like, let's like.
With the tights or the shorts were too small, with the money hanging out of it.
Yeah, and they fall off. Yeah.
I could not look past that outfit. I mean, people would always go, "Man, that Jason Jett's pretty good," or "That Easy Money's pretty good," and I could not look past that outfit.
Unfortunately, I think a lot of people can't. I think that maybe one of the first things that happens when they sign him is they're gonna like send him an outfit rather than him coming up with one of his own.
Well, okay, my real question was, I'm sorry. My real question is about the WWF, WCW possible angle they're going to do soon. Is one federation eventually going to take over the other? Is that what's going to happen if they go against each other?
There's no long-term plans, but eventually, yeah, I think that's just going to happen.
So
that's how it always ends up.
Destroy it.
That's how it always has ended up in the past. Okay. I don't see any reason why it would be different now.
Okay, I just wanted to know what people would be... Since everything pretty much on North American TV is going to be WWF, Vince McMahon style programming, if more people are going to be interested in New Japan stuff, or maybe even Lucha Libre.
Not a whole. I mean, there might be a little bit more, but I don't think it's going to be any great shakes unless they were to get on. I mean, Lucha Libre is on TV. I mean, for me, I'll tell you what. I will be watching. I think Brian too. We will be watching more Lucha Libre in the next year.
Mm-hmm.
I can tell you that. That's just how it's going to wind up. New Japan, I always watch New Japan anyway, but it's not on TV in this country, so until it is, I don't know that it's really going to be anything more than a big cult thing of videotape collectors.
Yeah. Well, I remember a couple of years ago they ran When Worlds Collide. I don't know if you remember that pay-per-view.
Very much. I don't think I'll ever forget it.
Yeah.
Remember that?
I don't
that was
remember.
That was like the greatest pay-per-view.
That one was Atlantis and...
Oh... What are you doing, Brian? That was like the greatest pay-per-view, like almost of all time, right up there in the top 3 or 4.
I couldn't believe the heat Eddie had on that one. Do you remember where he came out as, I think, Los Americas? I think the crowd was actually punching at him. It was just crazy.
They were.
Yeah. Is that normal? Because that was the first tape I ever got.
It kind of does it to the Latino people.
That was when Art Barr was doing that backstroke deal.
No, it was like pregnant women throwing stuff, throwing punches, and they were going back. It was just amazing.
That was an amazing show. I'll tell you what, the first night they were at the Sports Street in LA, which was about a year earlier, maybe a little over a year earlier, the heat was like twice what it was that night. Although that night was a super show too. I mean, that Santo Octagon against Love Machine and Eddie Guerrero match, that's one of the best matches of the decade, I think.
Yeah, I'd agree with you there. One last thing, wasn't K-Dog Max Moon?
He was supposed to be, but Max Moon was Tom Boric. He was originally the guy who was supposed to be Max Moon. He may have been Max Moon once or twice. I'm not sure if he ever played it or not, but
I thought he burned his bridges with the WWF that way by I think he abruptly left when they had this whole suit made for him, or was that somebody else?
No, they had the whole suit made for him, and he never showed up because he was such a big star in Mexico. And in hindsight, I bet he wishes he could take that back right about now, because that's gonna Vince doesn't forget. He didn't forget that. And, that's what's happening right now.
Okay, thanks a lot, guys.
Okay, you're very welcome. Let's go to Jason. Jason, what's up?
Not much. How you gentlemen doing?
Really good.
I guess this is the night to talk about contracts, and I actually have a question about when Vince McMahon didn't technically Vince McMahon breach Bret Hart's contract by not allowing him creative control in the last 30 days of his contract?
Yes. Technically, I would say he absolutely breached his contract. Yes.
My question then is why didn't Bret Hart sue him for that? Because there had to be a lot of money involved in that contract.
Because then Vince McMahon could sue him back for punching him in the face.
Yeah.
They were kind of at a legal stalemate, both sides.
Plus, can you imagine that whole thing in court?
Well, I don't know, and I don't know, but I would just think an assault charge for a punch is not going to be as much as that 20-year contract.
Well, Vince was claiming all of a sudden he had double vision. He was going to, what's Vince McMahon's vision worth? I know all of a sudden now we've never heard about double vision, but he'd have kept it at least until the trial.
Right.
Read the top line, Mr. McMahon.
There would have been a permanent injury there if Bret Hart would have filed a lawsuit.
Huh. Wow. Okay, I guess I never thought of it like that.
Yeah.
What do you think Eric Bischoff will attempt to start up his own company from scratch and try and build
I think he would love to. The key is, can he get television? But if he could get strong enough television, absolutely he will. Or I should say he'll try. If he can get the funding in the television, yeah, for sure he will.
And earlier in the show, you said that he was going to, or someone said that he was going to hire Cyrus, and you said that he had a lot of good ideas that, did not come to terms. Is it possible that you could share some of those ideas, or is that something that you would?
Nah, because I'm trying to get the WWF to do them, and if I say them now, and it comes out they were Eric's ideas.
Okay,
I was Eric's ideas. They were ideas that people had pitched to Eric.
Yeah.
And they were good ones, but
he was willing to do.
Yeah, but he would have been willing to do them.
Okay. Well, hopefully he can start his own company and do those things, because I just don't see how wrestling can stand for what we're about to suffer through.
Yeah. Well, if he can, the whole key is the TV. If he can get a strong network to pick something up, the talent's going to be there, and he'll start something up. And if they can and they're viable, it's a whole new ball game, and it'll be good. It'll be good for wrestling. But the TV, that TV barrier is so strong right now. The fact that he couldn't get the TV when he needed to. That was to me the real news from last week was that here he had the chance to get the company, and the reason he didn't get it was because no TV station wanted it.
Do you think come this summer that those TV spots might open up with the writer's strike?
That would help, possibly. Yeah, that's one of the reasons why I'm surprised that some of these networks were not more interested, for that very reason.
Yeah.
Because it is still first-run programming, it still can draw ratings. The problem is the advertising community is looking very negative on wrestling, and that's the killer right now.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you, gentlemen. You guys have a good night.
Okay. Thank you very much. We are totally out of time. I want to apologize to everyone whose phone calls we didn't get to. And I will put the emails on the stack, and hopefully we can get some more. Then we will be here tomorrow at 5 p.m., and we'll be here all week. And I want to mention also that Wednesday we're going to have Jerry Lawler, and Thursday I think we're going to have the first long interview in pro wrestling of Brock Lesnar. So it's going to be a good week. We'll see you all tomorrow at 5.